Hi guys, how are you? God wants me to speak on this message. He wants me to speak on this. The other day I was going to speak on it. I was going to speak on bipolar disorder. And I wrote it down on my phone, and that same day when I was going to speak on it, somebody mentioned in the comments section that their friend is, going through something where they're accessing their gifts, but they're able to hear in the spirit, but they're having a hard time, knowing the difference between what are spirits and what are their minds, right? So I was like, oh, that's a confirmation for me to speak on it, but I didn't end up speaking on it. I didn't end up making a video that day. Last night, the Lord showed me a vision of my notepad, and I had the word bipolar written in my notepad because that was a topic I wanted to speak on. But I'm just going to speak on the overall mental health misdiagnosis that many gifted people are, going through. Many of you guys, if you guys were diagnosed with any type of mental health, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, even if you're not diagnosed, many of you guys, you're not actually crazy. What it is you're actually very gifted. You're actually very gifted. I'm trying to figure out how to explain the best way possible, but let me tell you something. It's very deep. It's a very wide topic, but I'm going to speak on examples, and the examples I'm going to speak on are what they consider schizophrenic and what they consider bipolar. I'm going to start off with bipolar because that was the original point of the video. But many of you guys, you have to understand something, that when you're gifted, if you have no direction and you have no training and you have no one teaching you on these things, and you may not be strong in your walk with God, or you may not know the voice of God, you may not be able to interpret, you may lack spiritual maturity, and because of that, this is where you may fall into the trap of thinking that something is wrong with you, or you may fall into the trap of believing what people are saying about you, and you may even fall into the trap of, taking medication that you don't even need to take. Spiritual maturity is spiritual maturity is a wide topic, but being spiritually mature also means being trained enough and understanding that when you hear certain things or feel certain things, you can't just react on it right away. You have to pray about it, you have to take it to God, and you have to also discern if this is something that is from God or not from God. And there's certain things that you may see and hear spiritually that you cannot tell everybody. Spiritual maturity also means having the understanding that not everybody around you is gifted like you. Not everybody around you can hear in the spirit. Not everybody around you is sensitive in the spirit enough to feel things very swiftly. What I mean by that is, very gifted people who are sensitive in the spirit, we can feel things very swiftly, as in we know when there's a demonic spirit around. We know when someone has a bad spirit within them. We can just feel things very swiftly. And because of that, you may end up having outbursts, or you may end up reacting off of that, or you may hear something in the spirit and it sounds like it's in the physical, but it's not really in the physical. And you may end up reacting based on that, having outbursts, or you may say things that people don't understand what you're saying. You may be like, oh my gosh, did you just say something? And the person around you will be like, I didn't say anything to you. What are you talking about? You're crazy. They may say that, but you actually heard something. It's not that you didn't hear anything. You actually heard something, but what it is you heard in the spirit. You were just not able to differentiate the difference, right? So spiritual maturity is when you are trained and you have an understanding and you know when to speak, when not to speak. You know how to discern properly. Spiritual maturity means, okay, I'm experiencing something right now. I'm feeling something that's not normal. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to react and have an outburst. I'm not going to snap. I'm going to stay calm. That's spiritual maturity. A lot of people who have spiritual maturity today, including myself and many others, it didn't start like this. Okay, it did not start like this. Many of us, we panicked. Why do we panic? Because you have to understand that when you realize that the world you thought that was the world is not really the world it is, and when you finally see in the spirit and hear in the spirit fully, to where you understand now that, you know, there's a lot of illusions, and you understand now that you have access to things that a lot of people don't have access to. In the beginning, it is very scary. In the beginning, you may panic. In the beginning, you may look like you're crazy because you don't understand how to operate through it. It's like being thrown on stage in front of hundreds and thousands of people, and they're watching you. They're all watching you. You'll have a lot of anxiety. You may be trembling. You may be stuttering. Like, it's very hard, right? So you have to understand that, it's, again, too, especially if you're also seeing things that are very, very demonic. It's like, imagine going from thinking like monsters ain't real, ghosts ain't real, demons ain't real, to seeing something demonic. You will panic, right? So that's what I mean when I say, like, not everybody had spiritual maturity in the beginning, because there's certain things that happen that will scare you, and it's like you have no choice but to have an outbreak. You have no choice but to panic, and you will look crazy to everybody else. But when you actually start to train in your gifts, and you actually start to understand your gifts, right? That is when you'll be able to operate through your gifts appropriately, and that is where spiritual maturity is grown, okay? As in, like, you will start to learn spiritual maturity, okay? Now, when it comes to bipolar, there's people who are extremely sensitive in the spirit, extremely gifted, and they can feel every single shift. They can feel every single shift when it comes to people, places, and things. You may be in an environment that's peaceful. You're okay, you're normal. And then you go into an environment where there's a lot of demonic spirits, where there was witchcraft done in that specific area, of that neighborhood or whatever, and you can literally feel the demonic presence. And when you go to that specific area, you all of a sudden get angry. You feel like snapping. You're just mad. You don't know why you went from being happy to all of a sudden angry, not realizing that you just left your area, which was peaceful. You may have drove or walked to this specific area, and that's very demonic, and now you're just angry, right? You're just angry, and you just have aggression, not realizing that the area that you're in now, there's witchcraft done there. There was a lot of aggression. There was a lot of shootings. There was a lot of stabbings, and you're picking up on that because you're sensitive to feel the spiritual afflictions in that area. You're sensitive enough to feel the witchcraft in that area, but you may not understand this. And then somebody else may be around you who doesn't understand what's going on, and them being around you, they'll just see you as, okay, he went from looking like this, or she went from looking like this and acting like this to all of a sudden being aggressive. Okay, they must be crazy. There must be something wrong with them. Do you get what I'm saying? And another example of this, how you may have different mood swings that people may say it's bipolar, but it's really not, is you may be normal one day, like you may just be happy one day, you feel calm, you feel collected, you feel just motivated and good, and then all of a sudden there's someone in your family or someone that you know that starts using a voodoo doll with your photo, or they put your name on an altar, and now a spirit is attacking you, to where now you went from feeling happy to feeling motivated to all of a sudden you feel just angry and mad, and you want to snap at people. How many of you guys have experienced mood swings all day? And a lot of it is because of witchcraft. And you know this now, as in you have spiritual maturity, as in you've received the revelations to understand that there is someone and something tampering with you for you to obviously feel these types of emotions. Before, you didn't understand why you were feeling this way, but now you have that understanding, right? So there's people out here who don't have the same understanding as you. They don't have the same training and knowledge as you. And because of that, they're labeled as bipolar. They're labeled as schizophrenic. They're put into hospitals. They're medicated. When in all actual reality, they're just really gifted. They just don't have any training. They don't have any understanding. They never had any deliverance, right? There's people that have them on altars, and they don't understand what's going on with them, okay? And there's many, they may not have the type of support and training that many of us have now. And here's the thing. you know, some people, when they start experiencing this, it's very hard for them to figure out what's going on with them. So the only thing they can do is panic. And I'm going to go into details about that after, but I'm going to say this again. There's plenty of reasonings, spiritual reasonings, as to why your mood may shift. A gifted person can be happy one minute and be sad the next minute because they're feeling someone else's spirit. There's someone that's connected to them. They may have a loved one that may be sick, and literally they may be feeling good one minute, and then all of a sudden they're feeling their loved one's sickness. They're feeling that their loved one's sad, or there's some type of sickness, and then all of a sudden they're thinking about this person, like, why am I thinking about this family member? And then the family member tells them in a week later, oh yeah, I'm not doing well, I'm sick. You get what I'm saying? But they're feeling it, they're dreaming it. And you know, for people on the external who are seeing this gifted person go from being happy to sad, they may just say, oh, this person's bipolar, this person has mood swings, not understanding that there's hidden things that this particular person with these gifts are actually going through. There's hidden things and hidden reasonings that not every one of us can discuss. So a person you may have a conversation with a friend who's really gifted, and she'll go from laughing and smiling, having a good time with you. You guys may be at dinner, she's having a good time with you, and then all of a sudden she may have an open eye vision. An open eye vision, as in she's not sleeping, she's seeing a full vision like Elijah did. She's having an open eye vision, and now she's able to see some type of deception that's coming. Or the person in front of her she's having dinner with, she can see some type of deception about her, some type of spirit that's within her. So now, because the person with the gifts is not fake, all of a sudden now she's going to feel uncomfortable at the dinner table with that specific friend because of the open eye vision she just received about her or someone else. But the friend that's sitting across from her may be like, man, this girl has problems, or this guy has problems. Like, he just went from laughing and kiki-kakaing with me to all of a sudden, you know, not talking as much, all of a sudden being quiet. Remember that with these types of gifts, we can't just openly tell people, hey, I had a vision about this. Hey, I had a dream about that. Hey, I had a prophecy about this. Hey, I heard this in the spirit. We can't, because when it comes to spiritual maturity, we can't discuss everything we see in the spirit. We also understand that if we disobey and we speak on everything that we see and hear, we can put ourselves through danger. And we also know that this type of stuff, like speaking on this type of stuff, can land us in a hospital or in a doctor's office, because majority of the population does not have these gifts. You see what I'm saying? Majority of people can't see or hear in the spirit, right? So because some people have spiritual maturity, they may look like they're bipolar because they're not speaking up, or they're not saying what they're seeing and hearing. So you may look at them like something's wrong with them. And then some people, they don't have spiritual maturity, and they'll snap or they'll blurt out whatever they're feeling or whatever they're hearing, whatever they're seeing, and they'll be still looked at like they're crazy. So either way, people will look at you like you're crazy if you have these types of gifts. But it's about, maintaining it in a mature manner, and it's about, just being mature about it, right? But anyways, majority of you guys, you're not crazy. You were never crazy. It's literally, you guys are gifted and you guys need training. Because churches don't teach on deliverance, they don't teach on gifts. And most churches, people in the churches, they like to compete with people who have gifts, or they shun those who have gifts, right? Or they demonize them. People don't get the proper training, and because they don't get the proper training, people are ending up in the hospitals. They're ending up on medication when they don't need to. They're being misdiagnosed when all they need is training and understanding and support and mentorship. That's it, right? Let me tell you something about mental illness. Every single mental illness that they have physically named or physically created a diagnosis for, it's all originally spiritual. It's all spiritual. What they're saying is a mental illness is actually spiritual. If you're being attacked and you're reacting from these attacks, and they're saying that you're crazy and you have schizophrenic or whatever because you're hearing these voices who are attacking you, you're not schizophrenic, you're not crazy. You're actually hearing demons. You're actually hearing spirits. But because they can't see in the spirit and they don't understand your gifts, they're going to diagnose you and say you're crazy and schizophrenic, right? And then you have to understand as well that there are some doctors who understand and know these are gifts, but they're put in these positions as decoys just to make sure you look crazy, just to make sure you are diagnosed, just to make sure you are medicated, so you can't reveal what you're seeing in the spirit. You can't expose what you're seeing. The devil puts decoys in these positions as well. God also has his people in these positions, but the devil has his people in these positions as well. Let me tell you something. Why do you think that when you first start to discover your gifts, you may have discovered it when you were a little child, right? And you may have felt like it was normal and, but after running away from it for some time and being afraid of it, when God reintroduces it back to you, if you notice, when your ears start to open up, your spiritual ears start to open up and your spiritual eyes start to open up, you will start to see things in the physical without you being asleep. You'll see people, you'll see people's faces, you'll see the spirits behind them, you'll see their eyes being black. You can literally see who has a soul, who does not have a soul, right? And you'll also see like spirits walking around. But then your spiritual ears, same concept. You'll start to hear things from a whole nother level, as in like if a pin drops across the room and it's a loud room, you'll hear the pin drop, but you'll also hear the sound waves from that pin drop. So these are like the signs, like when you first start discovering like you have like spiritual ears and spiritual eyes. It's like you're going to start seeing things that a lot of people are not seeing. You're going to start hearing things that many people don't hear. Your hearing is going to be like on a whole nother level, as in like if somebody's walking to your door and they're not even at your door yet, they're in the parking lot, you will hear them walk into your door. And if someone's in the house with you and you're saying to yourself, oh, this person's here, and they're like, what? How do you know they're here? The doorbell didn't ring. You're like, oh, they're just here. Then the doorbell rings like 5 minutes later. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. What's wrong with you? You're crazy. How did you know that? But what it is you were hearing their footsteps from 5 minutes ago walking through the parking lot. You were hearing it and it sounds normal to you. But you can also hear the sound waves from that footsteps. Another example is a basketball. If you're bouncing a basketball, to a regular person, they'll just hear the bounce, bounce, bounce. But to you, you'll hear the bounce and all the vibration off of that one bounce. The next bounce, all the vibration off the next bounce. So that's when your spiritual ears are starting to open. Everything is enhanced. With your spiritual eyes, same concept. Everything is enhanced. As in you're seeing physical things, but you're seeing what's also spiritual behind these physical things. See, like I always had spiritual eyes, but when they started to become enhanced, what happened was, I remember I was in a police car and they falsely arrested me, and I was in a police car and I was under attack as well at this time. And I remember as the police car was driving, I looked out the window and I saw a bunch of spirits. You know, the spirit body, how the spirit body looks like it's like a person's body, but a spirit body. A bunch of spirits, spirit bodies, they were running, and they were all running at the speed of the car, speed of the police car. And I'll never forget that. I was like, wow, I'm literally seeing spirits while I'm awake, while I'm seeing the physical. But I had to hush my mouth and not scream and not panic and not be like, because again, spiritual maturity, as in at that time when I was seeing that, I already had the understanding that, okay, Steph, you're seeing things that many people are not able to see. So now you have to pretend like, just act normal. Pretend like you're not seeing anything. Even though I was like, Oh my goodness. There was another time where I felt like I was in Alice in Wonderland. I was walking down the hallway towards my friend's door. And this was around this was actually the same day. The same day actually, but it was earlier on the day. And as I was walking to his door, all the doors, the door handles, they were turning. I looked on the left, all the door handles were turning. I looked on the right, all the door handles were turning. I looked down the hallway was getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. Similar to like Alice in Wonderland, like kind of thing. And that was when my spiritual eyes were starting to be enhanced. I was starting to see things. But I had to like, at that time I was kind of panicking, but I had to like play it off and be like, okay, act normal, act normal. Because I knew that if I panicked, they were going to send me into the hospital, right? So me showing you these examples or telling you these examples, I say this to say that there's many people who don't have that understanding and they don't have that knowledge that, hey, you have to try to be as calm as possible and not be as, noticeable when it comes to this, because they're going to say you're crazy. Some people, what they'll do is if they saw the doorknobs turning like that, they would panic. They would panic and scream. If they saw the spirits, they'd be like, oh, spirits, look at these spirits. There's so much ghosts. There's things running. And they would look like they're crazy, right? So a lot of people that are going through this, they're not actually crazy. They're actually seeing in the spirit, but they don't understand that these are gifts. One of the reasons why I was still able to be calm when I went through my attacks in 2016, even though I was panicking, I was able to be calm when it came to like what I saw. Like when I was seeing things, I noticed one thing. I was complaining about what was attacking me internally and how I was feeling and the sickness and all that. But one thing that I did that was very smart is I never told any doctor, the family member around me, or I never said to any of them, look, I can see that. Look, I can see that. Look, I knew right away that I couldn't say that because I knew what they were going to do. Right. And one of the other reasons why I was able to stay calm was because, like I said, it was not my first time noticing that my spiritual eyes were open. I noticed my spiritual eyes was open when I was 4 years old and I saw a demon and I saw an angel. And that memory has never left me. And because that memory has never left me, I always knew that I can see things that not everyone can see. The difference is that from the age of maybe 5 up until 2016, I wasn't seeing anything physically outside. Like I wasn't seeing any when I was sleeping. Yeah, when I'm sleeping, I could hear things, I can see things in a dream or visions, but I wasn't seeing anything in the physical is what I'm saying, like while being awake up until 2016. When 2016 happened, I remember I even saw an angel. I saw an angel at the concierge. That was the first thing that was the second thing I saw after the Reaper was the angel. So first I saw the Reaper and then I saw the angel at the concierge office, and I was gonna panic when I saw the angel, but not in a bad way, in a like, oh my gosh kind of way, but I had to stop myself. You know what I mean? I had to like, okay, spiritual maturity stuff, spiritual maturity, right? So again, I'm sharing this with you to let you guys understand that because there's people out there that don't know this, they will easily panic because you have to remember something. Finding out that this stuff is not just in the movies, it's not just in books, but it's actually real, that is scary to some people. Especially when you go your whole life saying spirits are not real, demons are not real, witches are not real, Rolex are not real, monsters are not real. And you're saying this your whole life only for you to see one. Come on now, anybody would flip, anyone would panic, and then to see everybody else around you looking at you panic, and they're looking at you like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, don't you see that? And they're looking at you like, are you okay? Then that's going to make you panic even more because now you're realizing that you're the only one seeing it. So, people have to have this understanding. And so if there's a lot of people out here who are not afraid to like speak up about it, now people are opening up about it, right? But the amount of lives that could have been saved, the amount of people that are wouldn't be dependent on medication, and the amount of people that would not be misdiagnosed, because a lot of people are misdiagnosed. You know what I mean? And You know, you may see someone that may go from being normal to having what they call a manic episode where they're panicking and, you know, not realizing that, hey, something triggered them to act like that. They didn't just panic and snap and for no reason. They may have heard a spirit lie to them about you and say that you're trying to attack them. Even though you're not, a spirit will lie to them and say, oh, this family member or this person next to you is trying to hurt you. And then they start panicking and they start screaming while they're around you and they start trying to fight you. And you're like, why are they doing this? And you're not understanding that there's a spirit that they're hearing, because they're gifted to hear in the spirit. There's a spirit that they're hearing that's trying to make them see you in a negative light to where they can want to fight you. And you know what I mean? And then there's some spirits that will tell some people who are gifted to commit suicide. And they will say, hey, if you don't do this, then I'm going to take this out. Like, there's spirits that will blackmail people into hurting themselves. Right? So this is what I mean when I say, like, not everyone is having a manic episode where they need to be medicated. And no, some of these people are actually very gifted and they just need deliverance. They just need help. Let me tell you why this happens. Now I'm going to go deep into details about this. You have to understand something. The enemy does not want God to have his children operating in the spirit. The enemy does not want God's children to see in the spirit, hear in the spirit. Because you have to understand, a lot of the work that is done, a lot of the darkness that is done to sabotage people's lives, to afflict people, to put curses on people, a lot of it is done in the spirit. Everything is done in the spirit, good and bad, before it becomes physical, before it manifests in the physical. But the difference is, not everyone could see in the spirit to be able to prevent it from manifesting in the physical. And that's what the enemy doesn't want. So the more people that can see and hear, the more soldiers God can have that can help people in the physical, right? And prevent things, cancel, rebuke, denounce things, right? But what the enemy wants to do is he wants the people who can see in the spirit to be medicated, to be looked at as crazy, so then they're afraid to operate through their gifts. So you have to remember something. When you first discover you have spiritual gifts, if you're not under attack, it could be the most funnest thing ever. What I mean by that is you will literally think you're a superhero, because it can be very fun. You'll start having prophecies and you'll start prophesying, and then you'll notice the prophecy happens right then and there. The next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you're like, wow, I can see ahead. And then and then you'll start hearing things, and it can actually be a very fun experience. Like, for example, before I started getting attacked in 2016, I started noticing my gifts were getting stronger and stronger in 2014, where I was actually having fun being able to hear more than the average person. Like, I was able to hear my drivers, because I used to order taxis a lot. I used to hear my taxi drivers coming to get me, and I would hear when they're about to enter the parking lot, and I'll be in the building, and I'll know my taxi driver is here. And then I remember that there was people in the building like, how does she know the taxi driver is here? You know, like, and they were kind of creeped out by it, but I would chuckle, like I had fun with it. I was giggling and everything, because I'm like, oh, little they know, right? And my dreams also were very, very, very vivid, to where, like, I was able to feel emotions. I was able to smell things, eat things. In my dreams, I can literally say, I want to eat a donut, and it will pop up, and I would eat it, and I'll actually be full off of eating it, and I would taste it. But that was before I was actually being, like, heavily attacked. So I was enjoying my gifts, right? When I was walking in public, I noticed that I was attracting a lot of animals, where squirrels were running up to me, because they looked at me like, there was one person that called me a Disney princess, because everywhere I went, the animals were running up to me And I was actually enjoying it. Like I was talking to them and laughing and singing. So your gifts are enjoyable in the very beginning before you start getting attacked, right? So I was really enjoying my gifts. There was one time I was at a nail salon, and when I walked into the building, everybody was staring at me, but they were staring at me with like, how to explain it? Like they're infatuated by me. And for some reason, they're all staring at me and they were smiling. And as I sat down, there was children coming to the window of the nail salon, and they're like looking at the window, and they're looking at me and waving. And their parents would have to come like, let's go, let's go. And I couldn't understand why I was attracting so much animals and so much children. And babies were looking at me like I'm passing the stroller. Babies are sitting up, they're turning their heads, they're smiling, and parents were just like, okay, what's going on? I didn't know what was going on, but I was enjoying it. And I also felt it. Like, it just felt like I was on a high. It felt like I was on cloud 9. It just felt like I was not, how do I explain it? If you guys watched the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper, the actor Bradley Cooper, Limitless, he takes that pill, he gets to access 100% of his brain. And if you notice in the beginning, when he's walking down the street, everything looks different. His eyesight's more enhanced, his hearing is enhanced, his thought process is enhanced. Everything is enhanced, like turned up. That's how it felt. He even said in the beginning, when he's walking down the street and he started to realize that the pill was taking an effect, he said to himself, like, it felt like he was like on this high. That's how I felt when I first started to notice my gifts like being turned up, right? So I was actually enjoying my gifts up until 2016. I was enjoying it. Music didn't sound the same. As in, like, every time I would hear music, I was hearing every single instrument singly. I was singling out every single instrument and I was hearing it singly. I was hearing every string, every brass, every chord. Like, I was hearing every note. Songs were starting to hit differently. As in, like, they were hitting me on a different level spiritually. It was affecting my emotions. Certain songs would make me feel like really sad. And I was feeling it on a times 10 level. Certain songs made me angry. I was feeling it on a times 10 level. Certain songs made me feel very happy. There was one time when my gifts were being turned up and I heard Pharrell Happy. And I remember, like, this was when my gifts were like being turned up, and oh my goodness, like, I was crossing the street one time and the guy was playing Happy from his car, and I swear I started dancing in the middle of the street while I was crossing the street, and everyone in their car thought I was crazy. But the guy in the car was looking at me and like smiling. But you would think that I was filming a movie or a commercial or something, the way I was acting. But that's because, like I said, when your gifts get turned up, you don't feel like a human being. Like, you literally just feel your spiritual self. You just feel your spirit. You don't feel your physical body. You feel your spirit. That's it, right? So that's when your gifts are extremely enjoyable. So enjoyable. What happens now is, once your gifts are turned up and the people around you understand now, okay, his gifts are turned up, her gifts are turned up. Now they're going to be able to access the things, the hidden mysteries of the kingdom of God, and they're going to be able to transform their life and do whatever they want to do in their life, their heart's desires, because God's going to give that to them. And they're going to be able to hear God. We got to make their gifts as miserable as possible. We got to make their experience as unenjoyable as possible. So now they don't want to operate through their gifts. To understand something, let me explain something to you. When my gifts started to become enhanced and I was starting to enjoy it, I noticed that I was able to do whatever I wanted to do. And I'm not talking about anything negative. I'm talking about good things. If I wanted to, open a business, I noticed that I was receiving instructions on how to do it. If I wanted to go into stocks, I noticed that I was dreaming about what stocks to go into. If I wanted to, whatever I wanted to do that was positive, I was receiving instructions on how to do it. At the time, I did not know. This was 2014. I did not know that this was God helping me and giving me these instructions. I just thought, like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing these dreams about this, about that, and I'm receiving instructions, but again, spiritual maturity. I didn't understand just how important writing things down was. I didn't understand just how much you had to pay attention to certain things. I didn't understand. I just knew that if I said I wanted to do something, I was having dreams and I was seeing prophetic instructions on how to do it. This was in 2014, and I was happy. I was enjoying my gifts. I cut out certain music. I was listening to positive music. I was strings, chords, instruments were hitting me differently. It was just so beautiful. Where I messed up, again, spiritual maturity, was once I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually gifted. These are gifts, and now it makes sense and all that, was me talking too much. I started to now write Facebook posts about all my Facebook posts were like positive, very extremely positive. I was saying so much positive things. I was talking about, I didn't even know where the wisdom was coming from. I'm like, where's all this wisdom coming from? I was saying all these prophetic quotes. I didn't know where they were coming from. They were coming from God, obviously, and God was blessing me with wisdom. But at the time, I didn't know this. I started talking about how my life is changing, how I'm starting to see differently, hear differently, feel differently, and not realizing at the time that I had witches in my family who were on my Facebook who knew the whole time I was gifted, but never felt the need to attack me because I didn't even know about it. So when I finally knew about it and they realized, okay, she now knows that she's gifted, she now understands what's going on, that's when I started to receive attacks. That's when attacks started to come in. Okay, that's when I noticed, okay, now it goes from me being so happy, feeling like I'm on a high, receiving prophetic instructions, to now all of a sudden having bad dreams, all of a sudden nightmares, all of a sudden I'm seeing one of my family members now attacking me in my dream, all of a sudden now I'm hearing spirits, all of a sudden now, do you get what I'm saying? How every beautiful thing, every beautiful experience was now being turned into something negative, right? And that is because I started speaking up about my gifts, right? Not realizing that I had witches in my family, right? So that's what I mean when I say, like, once they know that you're aware, and once your spiritual eyes and ears start to get turned up, because that's the whole, when your spiritual eyes and ears are not turned up, they're not enhanced, the witches and warlocks, yeah, they may be attacking you from since you were young, but they'll stop after a while. They're not gonna keep wasting their money and spend their money if they don't see that you're even aware, okay? If they say that you're just miserable, you're not happy, you're not even showing any signs that your gifts have advanced, or any signs that you're able to hear and see in the spirit, there's no need for them to waste their time and energy to attack you, right? So you have to understand that now when your gifts start to enhance and everything is on a whole nother level, and now you're receiving instructions, now you're understanding who you are, now they see that as an opportunity to start attacking you again. Because why is that? Because now they want to make your gifts unenjoyable to where you don't even want to continue to train or learn about it or operate through it. Because if you don't train, how are you going to know what to do? How are you going to receive prophetic instruction? How are you going to act on these prophetic instructions, right? So their goal is to prevent you from experiencing your gifts in a positive way and to make it as miserable as possible for you. But again, if they don't see that your gifts are not enhancing, as in you're not hearing in the spirit, you're not seeing in the spirit, and you're just looking normal, like your life is just normal, there's no need for them to attack you. But once they see, okay, God is now finally starting to open their eyes, their spiritual eyes, they're seeing more, they're hearing more, they're finally acknowledging it, they're accepting the call, they're accepting their gifts, now they have to attack you to block it. Now they have to prevent you from moving forward through your gifts, right? And if they make the experience unenjoyable and traumatic, guess what? You don't want, when you hear stuff in the spirit, you're not going to want to rebuke it, denounce it, or cancel it. In fact, you're going to want to go straight to the doctor. If you see anything, same concept. Even if you see anything good, you won't enjoy it. Even if you hear anything positive, you're not going to enjoy it. Because why? They want the experience of you having gifts to be so traumatic that you decide not to use it. Remember that when many of you guys realized you had gifts when you were young, you were scared of it and you ran from it. When you start to rediscover it, it becomes very enjoyable. But when they know that you've rediscovered it, their goal is to prevent you from further enhancing, further elevating in your gifts to prevent you from seeing, hearing what is for you purpose-wise, prophetically, right? And the more you run from it, the more you're afraid of it, you're not going to receive instructions. You're not going to see in the spirit. And guess what? That's how you block yourself. So that's their goal. How is the best way to block you? By trying to get you in a hospital, by trying to get you medicated. So now you don't even know how to train through your gifts because you're depending on medication for bipolar, when in all actual reality, you're just feeling and seeing and hearing what you can see, feel, and hear in the spirit. Now you're blocking out. You don't even know the difference between being sensitive enough to prophetically feel something, discern something, because discernment is spiritual feeling. Being sensitive enough to discern something now you're numb because of medication. Now you're not discerned anymore because you're so numb, you don't feel anything. So how can you discern when you don't feel anything? When you're just numb from medication, right? So that is the best place for them to get you, to prevent you from further enhancing your gifts, the hospital. And also, therefore, if you do see anything spiritually that, needs to be said, as in like if you're able to see what they're doing to you and you say something about it, now they already have on record at the hospital that you're crazy, that you're schizophrenic, that you're bipolar. So now they can attack you all they want and no one's going to believe you because you're being looked at as crazy because of what's already on your record. So they put you in the hospitals. They try to get you guys in the hospitals because that is their way how to cover themselves, as in like cover their tracks. Once they know that you're discovering your gifts and once they understand that you're being leveled up in your gifts where you can do whatever you want now, you can see, you can hear, and you're like, you have this how do I explain? You have this x-ray vision, like in the Matrix, like Superman. Like you have these superpowers that God gave you, miraculous powers now, right? These people, their goal is to keep you in a vegetable state, in a medicated vegetable state where you have no control of your mind, you have no control of your body. You have to remember something. These types of gifts are a blessing. They're a blessing. And to be able to have these types of gifts, and you don't even have to stoop to sorcery, sacrifice anything, make a covenant with the devil, that is a blessing. That is like you being a superhero. You being like Superman or Care Bears or whoever your favorite superhero was growing up. If you guys watch The Matrix, you'll see how they have the gifts in The Matrix, right? But what they will try to do, these people, these witches and warlocks and decoys who are used as decoys in these places to keep you in there, is they will try to get you medicated and they will try to get you to look as crazy as possible, so they have you being crazy on paper. Why is that? Because now that they know you're gifted to see in the spirit, what does that mean? That means that whatever they're doing in the dark, you're going to see. And if you have any type of power or authority in your voice, or if you have any type of influence, you may expose them. So because you have these gifts and they're gifted to you from God, that means that God is going to put you in a position of authority, put you in a position of influence, right? And these people know that. So they have to prevent you from getting to this position. And the best way to do that is by getting on paper that you're crazy, trying to keep you medicated, in and out of the hospital, keep you in a vegetable state. So if you try to expose them, no one will believe you. What happens to a lot of people now, and this is why they're misdiagnosed, because they're gifted, but they don't know they're gifted. Some of them know they're gifted, but they don't have the right mentors. They don't have the right support system, right? And this is what they try to do. So I just wanted to educate you guys about this. We will go into further topics in the near future. But I just wanted to give you guys this word for those who need to hear it. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.